Russia attacked Ukraine overnight with dozens of drone strikes and ballistic missiles focused on Ukraine's energy infrastructure in and around Kyiv and the Black Sea port of Odessa. Fox News senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott joins us from Kyiv. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Shannon. That's right. Just days before the 4th anniversary of the war between Ukraine and Russia, Moscow is showing no mercy.
We were awakened at 4 in the morning by blasts of ballistic and cruise missiles plus drones targeting energy infrastructure in this frigid winter. This as negotiating teams participate in rounds of talks to try and end the fighting. A new session is expected by the end of the month. It's said President Trump would like a result by June, but that's a reach, with Russian President Putin balking on issues like territory and security guarantees. Ukrainian parliament member Kira Rudik told us despite domestic issues like corruption scandals and slipping support for President Zelensky, Ukraine will make it.
We really appreciate everything that the United States have done for us. We are really grateful. What we want to see is clear understanding that Russia is an aggressor, and the keys to ending the war are in Kremlin. They are not here in Kyiv.
Still, with casualties on both sides mounting, the personal cost of this war for young and old becomes hard to bear.
People die. This is bad.
Terrible and horrible. My husband is in the army.
If they were not doing their job, then now we will be under the Russia.
With the support of our allies, I think everything can be possible.
Everything can be possible, Shannon. Ceremonies are planned for
Shame on
the
Russia.
milestone on Tuesday, but the fighting continues
And
as
their
well.
dictator.
Back to you.
All right, Greg Palcott, thank you very much. So what is the path forward? Joining me now, Senator Jim Banks, who sits on the Armed Services Committee. Welcome back, Senator.
Good to be with you.
Okay, so a lot of Democrats, every one of your Senate Democrat colleagues who has been with us on this show, they say the same thing every time about this situation. The president's been way too deferential to President Putin, and as evidenced by the activity this weekend, he doesn't seem like he really is interested in pursuing peace. So now what?
Well, Shannon, for 4 long years this war has gone on. You have to remember that it started because Biden was so weak. The invasion by Russia into Ukraine happened right after the debacle in Afghanistan. And then all of the mistakes along the way by the Biden administration has prolonged this war. President Trump has said himself he thought this would be really easy to resolve. It's been the biggest challenge so far that he's faced in his second term. And he's also right that Europe has to step up to the plate. While the ongoing negotiations by Jared Kushner and others in the Trump administration, Steve Witkoff and others, who are trying to negotiate peace, at the end of the day, Europe has to step up. Europe has to stop buying their energy from Russia to put Russia as leverage to put Russia on the spot to come to the table. But both sides are dug in. After 4 years, they're both entrenched in their positions, and it's long past time that Europe do more to put that type of pressure on Putin.
Well, we understand more talks are on the books. There are also talks indirectly somewhat continuing with respect to Iran. We've got that military base, the military assets that are based and moved into the region there at a very high level, giving the president every option that he would want at this point. Here's what the ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Committee, where you sit, Jack Reed, has to say. He says a preemptive attack against Iran would be a strategic misstep. Such a recklessness could spark an uncontrolled conflict. We know some of our partners in the region have that same concern. Do you?
Well, Midnight Hammer was so effective, it decimated Iran's nuclear program and progress. The Ayatollah, the regime in Iran know what they're dealing with President Trump. He's going to back up what he's saying. And President Trump has said over 50 times in the last 2 weeks that Iran needs to end their nuclear program, come to the table and make a deal. We have 2 aircraft carriers, hundreds of fighter jets, and Iran knows that we will use them. But that's what peace through strength is all about. President Trump doesn't start new wars. He projects American force and leadership. Iran knows what they're dealing with. They need to stop persecuting their own people, the protesters. They need to end their nuclear program. And if they don't, they know there will be hell to pay. So I hope that by President Trump doing what he's doing, I fully trust President Trump in this situation, what he did in Venezuela, Midnight Hammer, and so many other places. He's got a great track record. He knows how to use America's military might to bring the other sides to the table to negotiate peace. And I hope that will be in the best interest of America to end Iran's nuclear program. It's in the best interest of the Middle East, the rest of the world, and will lead to more peace. And I hope Iran will come to their senses and come to the table and do what they need to do.
So given what you point out, that precision execution by our military on Iran's nuclear program last year, this assessment that it's been completely devastated to this point, but now we're being told that that's the impetus of what's going on now. There are people asking why exactly now with this particular buildup. Glenn Greenwald, writing in Substack, says the U.S. has inexorably moved toward a war with Iran with stunningly little public debate or discussion. There's not even a pretense of involving Congress. And the more one looks for such answers about why this war is even arguably necessary, the more difficult it is to find them. Do you think the president needs to articulate more clearly, maybe at the State of the Union, about exactly what this moment is about?
Well, I look for the president to talk about that at the State of the Union this week, and he's been very clear. I mean, I don't know how he could be more transparent in what President Trump has said, what he's told the Ayatollah. Knock it off. We know that they haven't given up yet on their nuclear aspirations, and it's in the best interest of America that we put a stop to it, as well as our allies, and that's what President Trump is trying to do. Two aircraft carriers. I mean, as a Navy veteran, I mean, there's no greater sign of American strength and America's power and might than what President Trump is projecting. And I know we have Iran's attention. All they have to do is come to the table and tell us that they're putting a stop to it.
All right, I want to talk about something in your home state in Indiana. Just this month, there have been 2 deadly crashes involving people that either were here illegally, came illegally, but somehow got commercial driver's licenses. They are allegedly the ones guilty in these wrecks that left a number of Indiana folks dead. What do you do now? Where do you go from here? Because the administration's trying to do some crackdown with some changes to policy that's been challenged in court. Some of these states who say they won't go along, they're actually having some legal victories, at least temporarily. What can be done?
Shannon, this is a national crisis. I mean, it seems like every week now we have another death in Indiana due to an illegal behind the wheel of a semi-truck. And the more that we dig into it and learn, there's so much more that we have to do to stop it from happening again. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we had 4 Amish men killed by a Kyrgyzstani illegal in the part of the state that I live. Last week, this week, a 64-year-old man killed by an illegal from India. Back in November, we had a National Guard soldier killed in a Humvee accident on an Indiana highway
that they would allow them to have licenses
from the country of
to
Georgia.
drive.
I think I can
The
count
former commissioner of motor vehicles for the state of Kentucky, I can tell you this is ridiculous and needs to be changed federally and statewide, everywhere.
Duffy announced that the CDL, the truck driving license test, must be conducted in English. That will go a long way because we have states like California that conduct that test in 20 different languages. He also shut down hundreds of fake truck driving schools and then shady truck driving companies. But the states have to step, when Governor Newsom in California gives out truck driving licenses to illegals like candy, and then they drive through the highways of Indiana, the crossroads of America, and kill Hoosiers, you have states like New York that's doing the same thing. We have to put a stop to it. Even in my state, in Indiana, the state legislature this week is going to close loopholes in our own state. California needs to step up and do the same thing and stop giving illegals truck driving licenses, and that will save lives.
Yeah, we'll track that because I have a feeling that English-only test requirement is going to end up in court too. Senator Banks, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, votes are being cast already. Primary season is upon us. Congressman Wesley Hunt joins us from Houston to talk about one of those hot races out of Texas. Our Democracy 2026 series, we return to that heated 3-way Republican Senate primary in Texas. Early voting is officially underway. Joining me now, Congressman Wesley Hunt, battling it out with sitting Senator John Cornyn and State Attorney General Ken Paxton. They've both been on the show. Congressman, we're glad you're here to join us too.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Happy Sunday to you.
And to you. Okay, so the race has those 2 big names in it. They seem to be taking the spotlight, the money, the polling. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram says this about your campaign. The candidacy is largely a sideshow. Only he and his advisors know whether he genuinely thought he could surpass the 2 titans running or merely wanted to gain some kind of political leverage. by ensuring now that Paxton and Cornyn will have to go to a runoff. So tell us why you're running.
Well, first of all, I'm running because I believe in this country. I'm somebody that's want to die for this country. I'm a West Point graduate. I'm a former Apache pilot, flew 55 combat air missions in Baghdad. And one thing that I learned when I was defending freedom for this great nation is that we have to earn our freedom for this country in every single generation. And it's time for the next generation of leadership to step into the fray and fight for this great nation. There's a reason why our vice president is 41 years old. There's a reason why our secretary of war is in his mid-40s. Our secretary of state is in his early 50s. Because it's time for the next generation to step up. And it's time for the next generation of America First patriots to lead once President Trump is gone. I was the first person in the country to endorse President Trump on this last cycle. And Texas turned to President Trump to the tune of 15-point margin in this last election. This is Trump country. This is an America First country, and this is America First state. And I am the person that can both win the primary. I can win the general election. It won't cost a ton of money. And I will tell you this, as an Apache pilot, I'm realizing that if this were a sideshow, I have no idea why John Cornyn is spending millions of dollars hitting me every single week.
Okay, but that gets to this point about if there is a runoff, if there's no clear winner when March 3rd, when the voting wraps up, that forces a primary that goes into May 26th. And there are all kinds of concerns on the Republican side of this ticket about that money that's getting spent. If they're spending it coming after you, they're not going to be able to use it for the general. So why be what many people would call a spoiler at this point, forcing this thing to an expensive runoff as well?
That's just a failed argument. Actually, I waited 9 months to get in this race, and John Cornyn is one of 2 senators, incumbent senators, that has not gotten President Trump's endorsement. And they have already spent close to $100 million on this race. And you have a 24-year incumbent that is still polling in the 20s. That's actually the real question. How do you spend a Powerball ticket and you're still polling in the 20s? And the reason is because of this. John Cornyn co-authored gun control legislation in Texas. He co-authored a bill that allowed 50,000 Afghan immigrants to enter this country without being properly vetted. He did not endorse President Trump until a year after I did. So if you have a 24-year incumbent, and if he were in good shape, then there is no need whatsoever to spend that kind of money on this race. So to make the argument that now you're worried about money for the future after you have already spent 85, 90, and by the way, all in $100 million on a 24-year incumbent who still is polling in the 20s, that's a mistake that I can't account for. The only thing I could do is be the best option for the people of Texas. D.C. does not decide who the next senator of Texas is going to be. The people of Texas are, and I'm giving them the best option.